This is Marc Tobias with Keith Kaczmarek, and we're at Powerwave headquarters in Santa Ana, California, and we've just gone through some of your technology. You're one of the leaders in the world as far as supplying cellular and Wi-Fi at a very advanced level to major venues, as well as government and industry. Keith, you're the VP and General Manager of Powerwave out here?
That's correct. I run a group that's responsible for what we call global wireless solutions. So bringing solutions indoor and outdoor in what we refer to as a distributed antenna system world.
And you're an electrical engineer by
correct.
Education.
Absolutely.
Right. Came from the Midwest last year.
From
Iowa,
yeah.
Right.
Right.
A lot of people don't know your company, obviously, and obviously a lot do. You have facilities all over the world. You manufacture a lot in Asia. You have very cool RF equipment. What exactly does Powerwave, what's your expertise in the world?
I think Powerwave is best known for really addressing from the base station out. So we work with wireless operators. We help improve wireless coverage, macro systems, micro systems, pico systems, indoor, outdoor. Great power amplifier technology, great filtering technology, great amplifier technology, antenna technology. All those things come together to help wireless operators better improve the coverage and capacity of their network.
So are your main clients wireless operators versus venues?
Absolutely. We very much focus on the wireless operators. I mean, there's situations where there's what we refer to as neutral hosts that also work with the wireless operators. We provide our equipment to them for them to work with the wireless operators.
So like you supply the RF at Moscone Center in San Francisco as one of your venues. You're doing Mecca. You're doing facilities in Brazil, Moscow. You're all over the world.
Right, absolutely.
Now, everybody, when you go to a convention center in Las Vegas, which is one of your venues,
right.
Everybody thinks there's a bunch of Wi-Fi routers that are hooked together through an Ethernet to allow you to have Wi-Fi, and that there's probably repeaters or micro cell sites for cellular. That's not exactly right, is it?
You know, there's a combination. So there's definitely Wi-Fi routers that are generally deployed. So you're right.
The cheap way.
The wireless operators and/or the venue will deploy that as a way of offloading some of the capacity onto Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi has become very broadly available. But technically, you're right. What happens is a base station worth of capacity or multiple base stations worth of capacity get deployed in that venue. So it looks like a cell site inside of a venue.
So this is how you can get coverage in really difficult areas where there's concrete, there's steel. This is the only way to deploy these kind of systems.
You're right. I mean, so a lot of cases, and Moscone is a great example, right, where it's mostly subterranean, so there wasn't coverage there. So initially, when that was deployed 10 years ago, it was deployed as a coverage system. So it was about getting RF coverage within that Moscone Center in all the different halls and venue locations. And now it's about capacity. I mean, everybody's using their smartphone and their wireless device and their air card. So they're looking for that capacity, 3G, 4G, and now it's about getting multiple cell sites worth of capacity inside the Moscone Center or any of these venues.
So the carriers really like you because you're substituting, we'll call macro site capacity or your normal cell sites. You're taking some of that traffic and utilization and localizing it.
You're absolutely right. If you look at the amount of traffic that happens indoors these days, and there's some studies that show that it's 80% of the wireless traffic happens indoors.
Yeah, that's an amazing statistic.
It is huge. Especially when you think about where
cell
phones came from, car phones.
Oh yeah,
right?
well the old analog, it was all distance.
Yeah, it was
right.
bolted into your trunk. Well,
right.
Now everybody carries it in their pocket,
right?
So absolutely, people are in these different venues. They're streaming videos of their friends, hanging over the rails at a sporting event. I mean, all those kind of things that happen, and that takes a lot of bandwidth. So you're right. The wireless operators very much look for ways to take capacity off the macro network and put them as close as possible to the end user. We kind of refer to it as a small cell, as an inside-out sort of construction. So the big macro systems were built outside in. Now it's about building from the inside out.
And you're doing a combination of RF or radio frequency to support the carriers and Wi-Fi.
Correct. Yeah, correct. I mean, our systems are able to support traditional wireless frequencies, from very low frequency to very high. Public safety frequencies, we can cover all of those, and then also, you're right, being able to carry also traffic up in the Wi-Fi bands.
So you do public safety as well as cellular?
We do. So a metro system that gets deployed, generally, one of the requirements is also deploy to help support public safety in those. So 450 other frequency bands, VHF, UHF, frequency bands, they also can be handled through the same type of system.
So you basically, as I understand it, walking through your system this morning, you basically take a very small transceiver, to make it simple, from the carrier, and you take the output, which would normally go to the handset, and you convert that to light.
Exactly.
And then you redistribute that versus on fiber optic to your distributed antenna systems and distributed RF, and then you re-encode it at the RF level.
Back up to RF, absolutely. So we take base station equipment, put it into a converter. We call it an FBU, but so basically it's the head in that converts from RF to optical, and then send it out optically, and then go from optical back to RF, and then put it out through multiple antennas.
Okay, so why? My readers are into travel and technology and security. Why should they care about what you do?
I think the issue is really, I
want to use my phone.
I want to use my phone everywhere. And when I dial 911 and I've got an emergency, I know that it's going to get through. I want to make sure that that quality, that coverage is there for those situations, but also for the fact that I'm downloading that latest video clip and I want to see my kids, after the soccer game. So all those things are possible, because of wireless.
So your company is doing trains also, and this actually started with my piece on Amtrak.
Right.
And how are you involved with trains worldwide and providing RF on trains?
Yeah, I think the major focus that we have with trains is how do you get coverage into the stations themselves, so a subway system. How do you then get into the tunnels and provide the coverage that you need? So it's mostly focused on extending and enhancing coverage and capacity, both at the station level, at the at this tunnel sort of level, anywhere that you need capacity within that system.
How long you guys been in business?
In the 80s, Powerwave was formed, so 30 plus years, somewhere in that.
And so you've been around a long time.
Oh, we've been around a long time.
And you have a complete solution. So you do antennas, distribution amplifiers, everything you need is self-contained.
Right. Yeah, really you're right, from the standpoint of from the base station, power amplifier equipment, filtering equipment, antennas, all those things are part of what Powerwave puts together, along with some very sophisticated enclosures, what we refer to as a rapid deployment vehicle that allows us to also get coverage out to an area that needs coverage in an emergency situation or in any type of situation. So lots of different technology that help wireless operators better deploy
And
capacity.
it doesn't matter to you what frequency band or whether it's LTE, GSM, 4G, 3G, public safety, you don't care.
We don't care. I mean, it's a matter of, you're right. We've got great RF expertise, across all bands, from low frequency to very high frequency.
So, in a nutshell, well, first of all, where do you think this business is going? What's coming next?
I think the great thing is that, the wireless industry continues to reinvent itself from the standpoint of increased levels of capacity, functionality. I mean, it's really exciting, obviously. I look at, the technology that my kids, I carry, around these days, what we're able to do, and who knows where it's going to go next. But it all means that you need more coverage, you need more capacity. And so a company like Powerwave is there to help the wireless operators more efficiently deploy that coverage and capacity.
So it is a question of capacity. How are all the carriers going to keep up with all the gargantuan data requirements that everybody's eating up? Data has to be at least 90% now of traffic,
right,
versus voice.
Right.
So how does your company assist? Is by filling in local cell sites, in inside venues? Is that where you really see your role in all this?
You know, so Powerwave is focused on everything from the outdoor, the macro, all the way through to the indoor environments. I mean, you're right. If you look at, what's going to be needed to be able to get the capacity needs met from an end user point of view, it's about more spectrum, which obviously is something that's hot on everybody's list.
Right.
How do I get access to more spectrum? It's about new technology, LTE, 4G technology as that's being deployed, and advanced LTE. I mean, those kind of things. It's about a network of networks. It's about micro, pico, macro. How do I build a layered sort of set of networks? How do I take things like Wi-Fi and use Wi-Fi to offload some of my capacity? So the wireless operators are focused on how do I meet this capacity through all the different tools that they have in their toolbox. And it's many, many tools, and we're there to help provide them as many tools as we possibly can.
Do you see Wi-Fi as an alternative, as a localized cellular network? Do you view that as that? Because there's roaming now. I go all over the world, and Wi-Fi is the alternative network at much less cost.
Wi-Fi is great. I mean, when complemented, our view is that it's a great complement to a traditional wireless network. So, a wireless operator that has a 2G, 3G, or 4G network that can provide the true mobility, the true sort of quality of service, and then Wi-Fi is a good complement to that. That it really helps pull off capacity. It helps take off some of the capacity from that macro network.
Keith, what's your biggest nightmare?
Biggest nightmare.
And system design, system implementation, what really causes you the most difficulty?
I think it's one that, what we're finding, of course, over time is that, how do I manage, how do I control, the RF environment, the noise, the interference, all those kind of things. So, the great thing about Powerwave is we've got great engineers that, incredible scientists that really understand the RF environment. So it's always looking for, what's the next thing? How do I get the next level of capacity and performance? How do I stay far enough ahead of the competition? So it's always focused on that. How do we improve these networks going forward for the wireless operators?
What's the most difficult implementation that you guys have had?
Some of the challenges, if you look at it from the standpoint, at least my group really focused on indoor DAS, outdoor distributed
DAS
antenna,
being distributed antenna system.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. How do I get to the access I need, getting the locations I need, the deployment that I need. So it comes down to sort of more logistical issues than anything else, not RF challenges.
Where in the world, you have systems everywhere. Where, I guess what I'm asking, so that readers can identify with it, what's been the most difficult challenge that you have had to overcome, whether it be the train system in Brazil or Moscow or whatever?
I think each one has its own set of unique challenges. In Brazil, I was down there recently, and we had a very small little area that we needed to put all of our equipment. So our team focused on, was there a way to find an area within that structure, put fiber optics a little further distance than we needed to. So I think every environment has its own unique characteristics, but we've been able to work through all this.
Have you any problems like in South America where your equipment's being stolen?
Has
that been an issue?
Not for us, no. Generally, sort of in a subway system or something else, we're in a a telecom closet, somewhat protected environment. So, not that I'm aware of that there's been any significant theft issues.
So you're basically transparent to the user, and you don't derive any revenue from the user. All of your revenues come from carriers.
We sell to the carriers, or we sell to somebody that sells to the carriers.
Okay, so you don't implement your own solutions as far as a convention center providing Wi-Fi or whatever.
Right. A convention center could purchase the equipment with the right sort of commitment from the carriers, but the carriers, sort of have licenses, right, for these frequencies. Right. So the only way to legally operate is, of course, with the permission from the carrier that has the license in that area.
And what happens when you're operating, or your equipment's operating in a convention center? You'll redirect all that traffic, but what if I'm picking up control channel signal, for example, from outside the venue? How does that work? How do I know what to talk to?
It's one of the most important aspects of the design process. We can refer to it as a dominant carrier. That I need to make sure that my signal is dominant for
in the old days of capture effect.
Absolutely.
But that's different now.
So what we do is we go out and we do testing within the venue. We'll understand what the outdoor environment looks like. If I've got a neg 75 signal, then I've got to get a neg 65 signal into that building so that I'm strong enough that I capture the user inside the building. Part of the design process, part of the expertise that our engineers have.
And I've heard some complaints, not about your company, but that I've had people go to convention centers and tried to use their like 4G modems or whatever, and they wouldn't work because they were blocked by the convention center facility, so that you had to utilize the convention center provided facilities at a rate, especially in Las Vegas, a very high rate per day. Is this common practice? Have you come across this?
So technically, I mean, they're not allowed to block.
Well, no, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, so jammers or something like that, that would be definitely an illegal sort of use of.
Yeah, but have you run
tools.
across that?
We have not.
You're not.
We have not.
Because I actually had some input that some folks were not able to use their normal wireless connections.
So the question would be whether maybe there wasn't enough capacity there, or the systems were not fully functional. So it really comes down to, the venue does have the right to decide whether the carriers are going to come in or not.
Right, of course.
So the carriers have to work a relationship with the venue operator to be able to bring their RF in. So if they're excluded, if they're kept out, then you could see how they could be using their control over that venue to keep out the wireless operator.
Right. Okay, so last question.
Okay.
Where's the most difficult or weirdest place in the world that you've implemented a system to provide cellular coverage or Wi-Fi coverage?
Yeah, we've had some great examples. I mean, Mecca, the largest outdoor venue,
right?
Just a phenomenal amount of coverage and capacity that was deployed there.
For cell phone, not for Wi-Fi, or is there Wi-Fi at Mecca?
That
also?
was purely cell phone at the time, when that was deployed. There's lots of great venues that we've deployed. It's really been fun. Boston Tea, convention centers in Boston and other parts of the world. I mean, it's been a lot of fun.
Has your company done?
systems.
I know you do military. Have you done like Afghanistan, Iraq, these kind of venues that would be really tough?
Right. So we've done a number of things for the military. Can't really talk about specific locations.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate
Thank you, Marc. I
touring
really
your
appreciate
facility
this
today.
opportunity.
Thank you.
Marc.